Welcome back to Smart Money. I'm sure a lot of you watching right now have never thought about writing your own will or even succession or estate planning, but this is an important topic in your financial journey. So we have with us Vishnu Chundi, who's the founder and CEO of AsaanWill, a digital platform that helps you write your own will and, of course, go through the whole procedure without any hassles. Vishnu, I want to talk a little more about AsaanWill, what it does, how it benefits, the person writing their will, etc. But I want to also talk about digital assets because, that's a big thing in today's day and age. A lot of young people don't have too many financial assets between the age of 30 and 40, but we do have a lot of digital assets, right? What happens to all of that when I'm gone?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. So the classic changing face of India is people are now buying insurance policies online. They're buying gold online. Real estate investments are online. REITs. So total transformation with the entire fintech boom. Now, what happens to all of these digital assets? And also, I have friends who are professional content creators. So they actually have YouTube channels, Insta channels, and that's basically their livelihood. So who gets that particular asset, which is literally a cash cow? Of course, we have the whole cryptocurrencies. I'm a huge investor in those as well. I think without a will, in theory, depends on platform that you're investing in. So I'm afraid I can't give an umbrella answer for all these assets, but let's take an example. Let's say your digital insurance. So let's say you bought an insurance policy online, and if you've appointed your father as the nominee, now the intent behind this is important. Is your intent that the father gets the 2 crore term life policy, full payments, or is the intent that the father distributes that with the mother and your children? According to the Insurance Amendment Act of 2015, if you appoint either your parents or your spouse or your children as a nominee, they are treated as a beneficial nominee, which means they can consume the entire payout. However, if you appoint anybody else outside of these 4 relationships, they are only treated as a custodian, not a legal heir. Very few people know about this. So this is important to know. Again, who's going to take care of your mother if everything goes to the father?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very important. That's very important. That also brings us to the key difference between a nominee and a legal heir, right? It was an eye-opener that you told me that if I have investments in mutual funds and if and when I pass away, my mutual fund investments will be split between my spouse and my children, and my parents may not get anything at all. While a lot of us, I know, earn money so that we can also look after our old parents. So this is a big shocker that you need to sort of write a will and decide that, this much goes to my parents and then rest to my legal heir. So tell me about this difference, this classic difference. If you just want to once again clarify, what is the main difference between a nominee and a legal heir, and how do I ensure that my earnings are split equally between all 3 parties?
So fundamentally, as the English in India or even globally, one of the biggest misconception is people tend to use nominee and legal heir interchangeably. Because nobody explains this to you, right? Like when you go to a bank and open a fixed deposit or any asset, like literally mutual fund is just one example. It could be your Demat account, you appoint a nominee. So in your mind, you could be thinking, okay, everything goes to them. If that is the intention, then definitely that won't be the case because most people in India do not have a will, which means they died intestate without a will. And therefore, the succession laws default to treating their distribution of assets. So in the absence of a will, your nominee will only be able to operate the account so that they can then distribute the account to the rightful legal heirs. However, if you write a will and you categorically specify that I want my mutual fund to go to my father, that overrides everything else because that is your last wish and testament.
Okay, that's very important. So tell me, if I want to, start this whole procedure on AsaanWill, take us through the route. How does it happen? How long does it take? What are the things, the do's and don'ts that I need to look out for?
So it's actually super simple. What we have done is we've digitized the entire information collection and will drafting aspect of writing your own will or a trust. So step number 1, you just come to asaanwill.com. you answer your questions about what assets do you have. Again, we don't need to know the value of the asset or the IFSC code or the exact account number. Only the information that helps your family members to identify the asset. So you can say, I have an account with HDFC in Worli branch. That's good enough. So step number one, list your assets. Step number two, you by filling a form, you'll be able to articulate who needs to get what. So your father, your spouse, your kids, your nieces, nephews. And one thing that we are noticing in India is, especially among the millennials, they are donating to their favorite charities. So I have given to both my alma mater, BITS Pilani and London Business School. So depending on whatever you want, you can also include them. And finally, step three, our lawyers will get back to you within 24 hours by drafting a will. So it's not a computer-generated document. A real experienced lawyer looks at your situation and asks you these questions so that this is not one-size-fits-all approach. After your first will draft is sent to you, and you can very quickly request for any changes. 99% do not ask for any changes because they've captured their wishes. And then step four is the signature with the witnesses and the registration, which also we take care pan-India.
Okay, that's great. That seems like a pretty simple and easy, process to follow. But you spoke about how the social fabric is changing in India, right? Now you have a lot more people, whether it's the millennials or the Gen Z, a lot of people are not having children, for example. There are a lot of single parents because of the rising cases of divorces, etc. So for single parents particularly, how can I safeguard my child's future if I say don't have a spouse, if I don't have anybody to look after my children, God forbid I'm not here, how do I safeguard my future as a single parent?
Yeah, fantastic question. So first question, is the child minor? Then you 100% need to appoint a legal guardian. And because this is your biggest part of your legacy is to make sure your child is protected, not just financially, not just their security, but also the kind of values that you want the child to grow up with. So you need to really think, who makes the perfect guardian for my kid? Who do you admire? Who is your person? Who is somebody that you trust with the well-being of your kid for everything, all kinds of cases? So definitely make sure you appoint a legal guardian for the child if it's minor, and then ensure that you're safeguarding the financial security. So once again, look at the biggest assets. So based on our customers, we know that the biggest assets tend to be the immovable property, so the real estate, and the term life policy of the insurance. Ensure that the nominee and the beneficiary are aligned there, because that is classic territory for disputes, because the payoffs are huge, the amounts involved are huge, so that makes it worthwhile for any family member to then raise a legal claim. And we see so many of these cases totally unnecessary, could have been easily nipped in the bud by taking right action prior to the situation. So prevention is better than cure in this case.
Okay, I have a lot of queries that have come through ever since, I spoke about your interview on social media, and we sort of invited a few queries as well. One query stood out for me, and I just want to throw this at you. If you can answer it, great. Srishti wrote to me, and Srishti, thank you for your question. She said, will you please include the problem of having a joint demat account and the death of one of the holders, because I had to close the account, reopen another one and transfer the holding. How can we obviate that? So that's a fair problem, right? I mean, a lot of us have joint demat accounts with our spouses, with our parents. What do you do if one of the account holder passes away?
Yeah, so again, in the case of specifically demat accounts, obviously the surviving joint holder becomes the nominee by default, so they can operate the account, and they essentially become the custodian. Now, typically, this problem, if I may expand the complexity, I think the real nub here is, imagine if you've got joint bank accounts, if you jointly own the property. That's when, if you do not have a will categorically stating how much of that particular asset you own in percentage terms, then again, you're just making it a classic dispute territory for your dependents, because they will certainly try and make a claim.
Well, Vishnu, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. And this is a topic that we don't generally talk about, but I think the need of the hour is to, put the limelight on topics like this, put the focus on topics like this, because it is a crucial part, as we said, of everyone's financial journey. Thanks a lot and all the best with your venture. Folks, with that, it is curtains down on this edition of Smart Money. Thanks for watching.